Hey guys, tonight we're traveling to a time before colors painted the sky, before rain ever kissed the earth, back to when Australia was just a giant, cracked red plate under an unrelenting sun. Imagine a landscape so dry that the very air feels like it's been baked in an oven for a million years, where the only sound is the whisper of hot wind over sun-baked clay. And in the middle of this endless thirsty expanse, there's a spider. Just a little thing, no bigger than your thumbnail. And honestly, if you were in her position, with no water for days, legs starting to curl from dehydration, you probably wouldn't survive the afternoon. She's that desperate. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. I'd love to know where you're settling in tonight. Are you in a bustling city where the heat is trapped between buildings, or somewhere quiet where you can actually hear the wind? Drop your location and local time in the comments. Now, dim the lights. Maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You are that spider, scuttling across ground so hot it could cook an ant in seconds. Each step on your 8 tiny legs is a negotiation with survival. You feel the grit of red dust clinging to your body, fine as powdered brick, coating the fine hairs that usually sense the faintest vibration of prey. But there is no prey here. Nothing lives here. Nothing except you, and you're not even sure how you got so lost. Maybe you hitched a ride on a wandering emu days ago and fell off. Maybe a storm carried you here. The how doesn't matter anymore. What matters is the thirst. It's a strange thing. Thirst, when you're a spider. You don't sweat like a human. You don't pant like a dog. But your lungs, those delicate, leaf-like structures inside your abdomen that let you breathe, they start to feel like parchment left in the sun. Dry, crackly, every breath. You take pulls in air that has no moisture to give back. You feel a thin leg brush against your face as you move one of your own those little limb-like mouthparts, and even they feel brittle, like they might snap off if you're not careful. You pause beneath the meager shade of a spinifex bush, a spiky, suicidal-looking clump of grass that somehow clings to life. The shade isn't much, just a slightly less intense shade of scorching, but it's enough to make you stop and think, or rather, to feel, because spiders don't think like we do. They feel the world through vibration, through pressure, through the tug of silk. And right now, what you feel is a deep, resonant emptiness in your belly, but more pressingly, a shriveling sensation in every cell. You need water, not to eat, just to be. You look up well. You turn your multiple eyes upward, because spiders have 8 of them, arranged in neat little rows like headlights, on some tiny, nightmarish vehicle. And what you see isn't hopeful. It's the same bleached blue sky you've seen for days. No clouds, no hint of mercy. Just the enormous, indifferent dome of the heavens, stretching from one flat horizon to the other. You lower your body closer to the ground, feeling a faint vibration through your legs, a deep, rhythmic pulsing. At first, you think it's just the heat playing tricks on you, that weird shimmer that makes distant rocks look like they're dancing. But this is different. This is a vibration that doesn't come from the earth. It's a sound, a deep, baritone humming, like the world's largest didgeridoo, being played by a giant with a chest cold. It vibrates up through your legs, into your cephalothorax, straight into your very being. And then, you see them, 2 figures, walking across the plain. But they're not walking like you walk, in a desperate scuttle. They're striding, casually, like they own the place. Which, in a way, they do. They're massive, not in a towering crush-you-underfoot way, but in a presence way. They're tall as trees, but lean, with skin the color of the red earth itself, painted with white ochre in intricate patterns that seem to shift as you watch. One of them carries a koala in a wooden bowl, but this one isn't filled with food. It's filled with something dark and churning. And as he walks, little wisps of vapor escape from it, curling into the air and vanishing. The other one is, well, he's harder to look at. He seems to shimmer, his outline blurring like heat haze, and the air around him spins lazily, picking up tiny dust devils at his feet. Gods. You don't know the word, but you feel it. You feel their oldness, their power, a weight of being that makes your tiny spider soul want to curl up and play dead. But you can't move. You're frozen, not just in fear, but in awe. Because from that koalaman, that wooden bowl, you catch a scent, the most beautiful, terrifying, and desperately needed scent in the universe. The smell of water. The scent hits you like a physical force, and suddenly the fear that had glued your 8 legs to the red dirt begins to dissolve, replaced by something far more powerful, pure, unadulterated longing. You've never smelled water before, not really. You've sensed moisture through the pads of your feet, detected the faintest humidity changes with those tiny hairs all over your body. But this is different. This is the essence of what you've been missing. Concentrated and drifting on the hot air, like the world's most tantalizing perfume. It makes your mouth parts twitch involuntarily. A reflexive motion that does nothing but remind you how parched you truly are. The two figures haven't noticed you yet. Why would they? You're just a speck. A tiny eight-legged nothing against the vast red backdrop of the continent. They settle down right there in the middle of the plain, maybe 50 feet from your spinifex bush, completely indifferent to the heat that would kill anything else. The one with the koalaman sets his bowl carefully on the ground, and you watch as the dark, churning contents settle slightly. Clouds. He's carrying actual clouds in that bowl, compressed and dark and heavy with the thing you need most. The other one, the shimmering one, drops cross-legged onto the dirt, and as he does, the little dust devils at his feet spin outward in lazy spirals before dissipating. They start talking, and though their voices are deep as thunder rolling across distant hills, you can understand them, not in words, exactly, but in meaning. It flows into your tiny spider brain like water soaking into dry ground. The one with the clouds is called the rain spirit, though the other one calls him something ruder, something about being slow and heavy and taking too long to get anywhere. The shimmering one is the whirlwind, quick and unpredictable, always moving, always changing. They're arguing, the way old friends do when they've been traveling together too long. You spilled half of them crossing the western ranges, Whirlwind says, his voice carrying a teasing edge that makes the air around him twist into tiny spirals. Your clouds are getting thinner, old friend. Soon you'll be carrying nothing but empty sky. Rain Spirit glares at him, and you feel a drop of moisture hit your back. Just one. Just a single, perfect, impossibly precious drop of water, landing square on your abdomen. You almost faint from the shock of it. It's cool. It's cool. And for one glorious second, the parched exoskeleton there drinks it in before it evaporates in the relentless heat. You need more. You need all of it. The desperation that had been a dull ache now sharpens into something focused, something almost predatory. I have enough, Rain Spirit grumbles, patting the koalaman like it's a beloved pet. More than enough. I'm just pacing myself. You can't just dump everything at once. There's an art to it. Art. Whiffle waffle no. Whirlwind nods, and the sound creates a small gust that sends red dust skittering across your hiding spot. You call it art. I call it being afraid of commitment. It's water. Throw it. Let it fall. What's the worst that happens? The worst, Rain Spirit says darkly, is that I use it all up, and then there's nothing left when it really matters. You don't understand, because you don't carry anything. You just blow through, stir things up, and leave. I have to sustain. You're barely listening now. Your attention is fixed entirely on that koalaman, on the dark, pregnant clouds swirling within. They look heavy, dense, like they're moments from releasing everything they hold. And you've noticed something else. Rain Spirit, for all his power and presence, seems distracted. He's leaning back on his elbows, arguing with his friend, paying no attention to his precious cargo. The koalaman sits there on the red dirt, unattended, unguarded, full of everything you need. A plan begins to form in your tiny spider brain. It's not a complicated plan, because spiders don't do complicated. It's simple, direct, possibly suicidal. You're going to get to that bowl. You're going to get into that bowl, and you're going to drink until you can't drink anymore. The fact that the bowl belongs to a god, that the contents are probably sacred, or dangerous, or both, that getting close to a being made of concentrated whirlwind might result in you being scattered across 3 different time zones. None of this matters. Thirst has made you bold. Thirst has made you stupid. Thirst has made you exactly the kind of reckless that creates legends. You wait until Whirlwind says something particularly insulting, something about Rain Spirit's clouds being so thin you could see through them, and in the moment of offended sputtering that follows, you move. 8 legs working in perfect synchrony, you dart from your spinifex bush, a tiny shadow against the red earth. You're fast. Spiders are always fast when they need to be, and right now you need to be faster than you've ever been. In your short, dry life, the ground blurs beneath you, each step finding purchase on the uneven dirt. Your body low and streamlined. 20 feet, 15, 10. You can hear their voices clearly now, the argument escalating, and you realize with a thrill that they're not just bickering anymore. They're genuinely angry. Rain Spirit has risen to his feet, his usually calm demeanor cracking like dry ground. Whirlwind is spinning faster, his form becoming less distinct, more dangerous. You think I don't care? Rain Spirit booms, and his voice actually shakes the earth beneath your feet. You think I just wander around dropping water wherever I please? There's balance to maintain. There's life to consider. And yet here we are. Whirlwind shoots back, his voice coming from everywhere at once, in the middle of nowhere, with nothing alive for days in any direction. Some balance. 5 feet. You're so close, you can feel the moisture radiating from the koalamin, a gentle coolness that makes your entire body ache with want. The clouds inside churn slowly, oblivious to the argument above them, oblivious to the tiny spider creeping ever closer to their edge. You pause at the rim, which rises above you like a cliff face, smooth and dark, and smelling of ancient wood and something else, something electric and alive. Then Rain Spirit moves. He steps back, angry, frustrated, and his heel comes down less than an inch from where you're crouched. The impact vibrates through the ground, through your legs, through your entire being. And for one terrifying moment, you're certain you've been discovered. But he doesn't look down. Neither of them look down. They're too caught up in each other, in their ancient rivalry, in the kind of argument that's been building for millennia. You don't wait. You can't wait. With a surge of desperate courage, you scramble up the side of the koalamin, your claws finding purchase in the weathered wood, and pull yourself over the rim. And then you're there, inside, surrounded by cloud. The moment you tumble over the rim of that koalamin, the world changes completely. You're no longer in the hot, dry, red reality of the Australian plain. You're inside a universe of cool, damp, swirling grey, and it's the most disorienting experience of your short spider life. Your feet, all 8 of them, sink into something that isn't quite solid and isn't quite gas. It's like walking on cold fog that has just enough substance to hold you, to cushion each step, to wrap around your legs in soft clinging tendrils. And the taste of it, oh, the taste. Every breath you take through those tiny openings on your abdomen pulls in air so saturated with moisture that you can feel your book lungs expanding, relaxing, finally releasing the desperate tightness that's been building for days. You open your mouth parts, those chelicerae that usually serve for injecting venom, into struggling prey, and you just drink. The cloud stuff condenses on your body, runs down your legs, collects in every tiny crevice of your exoskeleton, and you absorb it through places you didn't even know could absorb. You're not just drinking. You're becoming hydrated at a cellular level. Every parched tissue in your body sighing with relief. But you can't stay here forever, luxuriating in the damp. You're inside a god's property. And gods, you're beginning to understand, are not known for their patience or their sense of humor about theft. Through the dense cloud matter surrounding you, you can still hear their voices, muffled now but still carrying that edge of escalating conflict. Rain Spirit is defending his life's work. Whirlwind is mocking him with increasing intensity. And neither of them, thank every lucky star in the sky, has noticed that their precious koalamin now contains one uninvited, 8-legged guest. You start to explore. Moving through cloud is strange. There's no resistance. Exactly. But there's also no clear path. You push forward, and the cloud parts around you, then reforms behind, like walking through cotton candy that never gets sticky. Deeper you go, and the gray begins to darken, to take on weight and density. You're approaching the heart of the cloud, the part that actually holds the water, and you can feel it in every hair on your body. The static electricity alone is enough to make your legs tingle. And then you find it. A droplet. Just one, hanging in the gray like a perfect, tiny crystal ball, completely spherical and utterly beautiful. It's larger than you are, which is saying something. Because you're not that small. Well, okay, you are that small, but still, this droplet is practically a lake compared to your body size. You approach it cautiously, reach out with one foreleg, and touch the surface. It gives slightly, the surface tension holding, then breaking as your leg pushes through. And suddenly, you're not just touching the droplet. You're in it. The sensation is impossible to describe. It's like being hugged by coolness, by clarity, by the very essence of life itself. You float there, suspended in the droplet. And for the first time in what feels like forever, you're completely, utterly, blissfully hydrated. You drink through every pore, through every opening, through every surface of your body that can possibly absorb moisture. You drink until you can't drink anymore, until your abdomen actually feels heavy with water. Until you're fairly certain you've consumed more liquid than your entire body weight. And that's when the koalamin moves. Up above, the argument has reached its peak. Rain Spirit, fed up with Whirlwind's endless teasing, has decided to prove a point. He reaches for his koalamin, intending to show his friend exactly how much moisture he's carrying, exactly how substantial his clouds really are. His massive hand closes around the rim, and the entire world lurches. You're thrown against the side of your droplet, then tumbled as the koalaman lifts into the air. Through the cloud, you can hear his voice, triumphant now. You want to see substance. You want to see what I carry. Fine. Look. And then he tips the koala, just slightly, just enough to let a little of the cloud spill over the edge. But that little is enough to send you, your droplet, and about 1,000 other droplets tumbling toward the rim. You scramble, legs churning, trying to find purchase on something, anything. But there's nothing solid in this cloud world. Everything is shifting, moving, falling. You're falling. Over the edge you go, still inside your droplet, still clinging to the inside of this tiny water world as it plummets toward the ground. The air rushes past, but you barely feel it because you're encapsulated, protected, falling in slow motion through the hot, dry atmosphere. Below you, the red earth rushes up, and you have just enough time to think that this is a very stupid way to die. Drowned in a single drop of water after nearly dying of thirst, when you hit, but not the ground, something else, something soft and yielding and moving. Whirlwind, in a moment of instinct or perhaps just cosmic irony, has spun himself into a funnel directly beneath the spill, and your droplet catches the edge of his spiral, gets swept up in the rotation, and suddenly you're not falling anymore. You're spinning faster than anything has a right to spin, caught in the outer edge of a divine whirlwind. Your droplet stretching and distorting with a centrifugal force. Got it. Whirlwind shouts, and you realize with horror that he's not talking about saving you. He's talking about catching evidence. Got some of your precious clouds. Look at them spin. Look at them dance. Rain spirit roars in frustration. Tries to grab the koalaman back, but whirlwind is too fast. Too fluid. Too impossible to catch. He spins away, carrying your droplet with him. Carrying you with him. And suddenly you're on a journey you never asked for. Never wanted. But are absolutely, definitely going to have to survive. The world blurs around your red earth, blue sky. Red earth again as the whirlwind carries you across the plain at speeds that would tear a normal creature apart. But you're in a droplet. You're protected. You're beginning to realize, completely and utterly trapped. The spinning doesn't stop. If anything, it gets worse. Whirlwind, delighted with his capture, is showing off now. Zooming across the landscape like a child with a new toy, and you're the toy. Your droplet stretches and compresses with each shift in velocity, sometimes flattening into a disk so thin you can see the distorted world rushing past on all sides. Other times bulging into a sphere so tense you're certain it will burst. But it doesn't burst. Water is resilient. You're learning. Water holds together, even when everything inside it wants to fly apart. Through the curved walls of your prison, you catch glimpses of the world below. Red dunes streak past like frozen waves, their crests sharp against the impossibly blue sky. Glimpses of spinifex blur into green smears. Occasionally you see a kangaroo, frozen midbound, its ears swiveled toward your passing. A goanna flattened against a rock, hoping not to be noticed. A flock of cockatoos exploding from a treetop in a panic of white feathers and raucous screams. None of them have ever seen anything like you. None of them ever will again. And then, slowly, the spinning begins to ease. Whirlwind is tiring, or maybe just getting bored. The funnel widens, slows, and you feel yourself descending, dropping toward the surface of a rocky outcrop that rises from the plain like the backbone of some ancient, sleeping beast. Your droplet hits the rock with a splash that sends you tumbling across the surface, rolling, bouncing, finally coming to rest in a small depression where a handful of others have already gathered. Other droplets, other survivors of Rain Spirit's spilled cloud. You lie there for a moment. You float there, because you're still inside the droplet and try to catch your breath, which is ridiculous, because you're a spider and you don't breathe that way. And also because you're surrounded by water, so you couldn't breathe even if you wanted to. But the sensation is there anyway, that post-adrenaline shaking, that disbelief at still being alive. You made it. Somehow, impossibly, you made it. Through the curved surface of your droplet, you can see Whirlwind's form dissipating, his energy spent, his amusement satisfied. He's leaving you here, abandoned on this rock in the middle of nowhere. And you should be terrified, but you're not. You're too busy marveling at where you are, because this rock, this ordinary-looking outcrop, is covered in droplets. Hundreds of them. Thousands. Each one a perfect sphere. Each one catching the light in a slightly different way. Each one containing a tiny, distorted reflection of the world around it. And among those reflections, you see something that makes your 8 eyes widen. Movement. In the droplets around you, tiny shapes are stirring. Not spiders you are apparently. The only one foolish enough to actually climb into a god's cloud supply, but other things. Microscopic things. Things that have been sleeping in the dust for years, decades, centuries, waiting for exactly this moment, waiting for water. You watch as a tiny creature no bigger than a grain of sand unfurls from its dormant state, as another begins to swim in lazy circles. As a third splits in 2, then 4, then 8. Life, emerging from nothing. Life, awakened by your accidental theft. You press closer to the edge of your droplet, trying to see better, and that's when you notice something strange. The rock beneath you isn't just rock. It's covered in tiny grooves, patterns carved by wind and time, and those grooves are channeling the water. Slowly, almost imperceptibly, your droplet is moving, rolling along one of those microscopic channels, following a path that leads toward the edge of the rock. You look over that edge, and your stomach core, where your stomach would be if spiders had stomachs in the human sense drops below the rock, stretching out as far as you can see, is the same dry, cracked, desperate plane you've been trying to escape. But now, from your elevated perspective, you can see something you couldn't see before. Patterns in the dust, curving lines that suggest ancient riverbeds, long since dried up, depressions that might once have been the ghost of water, written on the land like a memory. And you realize, with a sudden clarity that feels almost like destiny, that you're not just carrying water anymore. You're carrying possibility. You're carrying the potential for life to return to this dead place. Your droplet reaches the edge of the rock and hangs there, suspended by surface tension, trembling with the weight of what's inside. You can feel the pull of gravity, the urge to fall, to join the dust below, and simply end this strange adventure. But you're not ready to end. You're not ready to let this water, your water, the water you risked everything to obtain, just splash uselessly onto ground, to dry, to absorb it. You need to find a better place. A place where this water can actually do some good. A place where the droplet falls. For one heart-stopping second, you're in freefall again. The rock face rushing past, the ground rushing up, and then splat. But it's not the ground you hit. It's something soft, something fibrous, something that catches you and holds you and wraps around you, like the world's gentlest net. A web, a spider web, strung between 2 stalks of spinifex at the base of the rock, and you've landed right in the middle of it. Your droplet hangs there, suspended in silk, and you realize with a shock that you're home, or as close to home as you're going to get. You're in a web made by someone like you, a web that's about to become the most important structure in the history of the world. The web holds your droplet, heavy with all the water you've absorbed, and all the tiny life forms now swimming inside you. Hangs suspended in the silk like a monstrous dewdrop, and the strands don't break. They stretch, they sag, they groan under the weight, if silk can groan, which in spider terms it absolutely can, but they hold. You're safe, relatively speaking, caught in the work of some unknown relative who built their home in exactly the right place, at exactly the right time. Lucky, maybe, but you're starting to suspect that luck has very little to do with any of this. Through the curved wall of your droplet, you examine your surroundings. The web is a classic orb design, the kind that catches flying insects in the night. Though you don't see any sign of its builder, probably hiding somewhere, waiting for the vibrations that signal dinner. Well, you're certainly signaling something, but you're not dinner. You're something else entirely. You're a passenger, a stowaway, a creature who's about to change everything without even meaning to. The sun is lower now, edging toward the horizon, and the light has shifted from harsh white to something softer, something almost golden. It slants through your droplet, and for the first time, you notice something extraordinary. The light, passing through your water prison, is breaking apart, separating. On the surface of the rock below you, where the focused beam lands, you see colors you've never seen before. A stripe of red, like the earth but brighter. A stripe of yellow, like the wattles when they bloom. A stripe of blue, like the sky at its deepest. They're faint, barely there, but they're there. Colors that don't belong to anything. Colors that exist only because light and water and angle have conspired to create them. You don't have words for this. Spiders don't have words at all. But you have something better. You have memory. You have instinct. And you have the dawning realization that you've stumbled onto something important. Something that matters beyond your own survival. Something that might, if you're very careful and very lucky, matter to the whole world. But first, you need to get out of this droplet. This proves more difficult than you expected. The water that saved your life, that rehydrated your parched body, that carried you across the plain and caught you in this web, has now become your prison. Every time you try to push through the surface tension, it pushes back, elastic and unyielding. You're trapped, suspended in a sphere of your own salvation, and the irony is not lost on you. You struggle, legs churning, body twisting, but the droplet only wobbles, only stretches slightly, only reforms around you like it's determined to keep you forever. And then, help arrives. From the edge of the web, a movement, another spider, larger than you, darker, her 8 eyes fixed on your struggling form. She approaches cautiously, feeling the vibrations through the silk, trying to understand what kind of creature has fallen into her trap. When she reaches your droplet, she stops, clearly confused. She's caught a lot of things in her time, flies, moths, the occasional beetle too stupid to watch where it's flying. But she's never caught a ball of water with another spider inside. Her pedipalps twitch, her front legs tap the surface of your prison, and you can almost see her thinking, asterisk, what in the name of all that's 8-legged is this? Asterisk, you tap back, a specific pattern, the spider equivalent of I'm friendly, I'm in trouble, please help. She understands. Spiders have been communicating through vibrations since before humans existed, since before anything with a backbone walked the earth. She tilts her head. Spiders don't really have heads, but you know what I mean. And then she does something remarkable. She begins to cut, using her chelicerae, her fangs. She carefully, precisely, slices through the surface tension of your droplet, not all at once, which would release the water in a flood and probably wash you both away, but gradually, strategically, creating a small opening that slowly widens as the water seeks its own level. You push toward the opening. Feel the resistance lessen. Feel the droplet finally release you. And then you're out, standing on the silk of a stranger's web, dripping wet but gloriously, wonderfully free. You turn to thank her in spider terms, a specific vibration that means gratitude. And she returns it with a vibration that means something like you're weird, but you're welcome. And then you both feel it. The web is trembling, not from your movements, not from the wind, but from something else, something big, something approaching. You look up and your 8 eyes widen in horror. Whirlwind is back, not in his full form, not with all his power, but as a funnel cloud descending from the darkening sky, and he's heading straight for you. He's remembered you. He's coming to collect his prize. You don't run. There's no point. When a force of nature decides to visit you, you don't scuttle away on 8 tiny legs and hope for the best. You freeze. You watch. You wait to see what judgment looks like when it's made of spinning air and divine temper. Beside you, the other spider has pressed herself flat against the web, her legs tucked in, her body as small as she can make it. She knows, without knowing how she knows, that this is not an enemy she can fight. This is something else entirely. Whirlwind descends slowly, deliberately, like he has all the time in the world, and wants you to feel every second of his approach. The air around you begins to move, gently at first, then with more force. The web sways, the spin effect stalks bend, and your droplet, the one you just escaped, begins to distort, stretching upward toward the spinning funnel like it's being called home. The tiny life forms inside it, the ones that woke from their ancient sleep, are stirring faster now, agitated by the turbulence. And then Whirlwind speaks, not in words, exactly, but in pressure changes, in wind patterns, in vibrations that travel through the air and into your body and resolve themselves into meaning. You, he says, and the word is a gust that nearly knocks you off the web. The tiny one, the thief. I remember you. You don't deny it. You can't. You are a thief. You stole from a god. You climbed into his koalaman, drank his clouds, and got carried away in his friend's whirlwind. The evidence is all around you, the water on the web, the moisture in your body, the tiny creatures now swimming in the droplets that cling to every strand of silk. You're guilty. Completely, utterly, undeniably guilty. But Whirlwind isn't angry. That's the strange thing. As he hovers there, his form slowly rotating, you sense something else in his pressure patterns. Something that might be amusement, curiosity. He reaches out with a tendril of wind and touches your droplet, the one still hanging in the web, and watches as it stretches and reforms. Watches as the light catches it, as the colors appear on the rock below. He's seen rainbows before. He's a god. He's seen everything. But you get the sense he's never seen one quite like this. Never seen one created by a spider, in a web, with water stolen from his oldest friend. The old one will be furious, Whirlwind says, and there's definitely amusement in his pressure patterns now. He's been carrying those clouds for millennia, guarding them, hoarding them like a miser with his gold. And you just helped yourself, took what you needed, didn't even ask permission. A pause, a shift in the wind. I like that. You don't know what to do with this information. Gods aren't supposed to like things that spiders do. Gods are supposed to be distant, indifferent, concerned with matters far above the concerns of tiny eight-legged creatures. But here's Whirlwind, hovering over your web, watching your droplet, and apparently approving of your theft. The world makes less sense every moment. Rain will come looking for his water, Whirlwind continues. He always does. He'll feel where it's gone, track it across the plain, and when he finds it here, in this web, held by spiders. Another pause, and this time the amusement is tinged with something darker. Well, let's just say he doesn't share your appreciation for the small things. He thinks in continents, in seasons, in millennia. A spider is less than nothing to him, less than dust. This is not comforting. You've already faced one god's wrath, indirectly, survived a fall from the sky, been carried across the plain in a droplet, and now you're being told that the actual owner of the water is on his way to reclaim it, and he's not going to be gentle about it. He's not going to appreciate the tiny ecosystem you've accidentally created, the life you've awakened, the colors you've discovered. He's going to see theft. He's going to see violation. He's going to see a reason to erase you and everything around you. But Whirlwind isn't done. I could help you, he says, and the words hang in the air like suspended droplets. I could hide you, move you, carry you somewhere Rain will never think to look. I owe you that much. I suppose I did carry you off in the first place, didn't I? Not intentionally, but still, I have a certain responsibility. You look at the other spider, still pressed flat against the web, still hoping to be invisible. You look at the droplet, at the tiny life forms swimming inside it, at the faint colors still flickering on the rock below, and you make a decision. Not with words, spiders don't do words, but with a vibration, a pattern, a message sent through the silk to the god hovering above you. No, I stay. Whirlwind is surprised. You can feel it in the way his rotation stutters, in the sudden drop in wind pressure. You'd rather face him, face Rain, in his anger, with nothing but a web and some stolen water to protect you. You send another vibration. Asterisk, not nothing. Life. These creatures woke because of me. This water can wake more. This web can hold more. I started something here, something that matters. And I won't abandon it just because the owner is coming to collect. Asterisk, for a long moment, Whirlwind is silent. His form slows, stabilizes, becomes almost solid in the gathering dusk. And then he does something extraordinary. He laughs. Not a mocking laugh, not a cruel laugh, but a genuine, surprised, delighted laugh that sends ripples through the air and makes the spinifex stalks sway in rhythm. You're insane, he says. You're absolutely, completely, wonderfully insane. A spider, defying a god. A creature smaller than my smallest dust devil, choosing to stand rather than run. I've been alive since before this land existed, since before the first rain fell, and I have never seen anything like you. He begins to rise, his form stretching upward toward the darkening sky. But before he goes, he leaves you something. A gift. A small, concentrated whirlwind, no bigger than your body, spinning gently in the center of the web. It's warm, somehow, and stable. And as it spins, it catches the remaining moisture in the air and deposits it on the silk, drop by drop, building up the reservoir you've already started. You'll need this. His voice comes from above, fading now. Rain won't be gentle, but maybe, with enough water, enough life, enough of whatever it is you've started here, maybe even he will see, maybe even he will understand. And then he's gone. The sky is empty. The wind is still, and you're left on a web in the middle of nowhere, with a tiny whirlwind spinning beside you and the certain knowledge that a god is coming to judge, coming to reclaim, coming to decide whether you and everything you've touched deserves to exist. The other spider finally moves, creeping closer, her vibrations questioning. You answer as best you can. Asterisk, we wait. We prepare, we hope. Asterisk. The waiting is the hardest part. You've faced thirst. You've faced falling. You've faced the inside of a whirlwind and the surface tension of a droplet that wouldn't let you go. But waiting for an angry god to show up and decide your fate, that's a different kind of torture entirely. The sun finishes its descent, and the world darkens around you, and still you wait. The other spider has retreated to the edge of the web, watching you with those 8 unblinking eyes, clearly uncertain whether you're a blessing or a curse dropped into her life. The tiny whirlwind left behind continues its work, spinning gently, gathering moisture from the cooling air and depositing it on the silk. Droplets form along every strand, each one catching the last light of dusk, each one holding a tiny reflection of the emerging stars. The web is transforming, becoming something it was never meant to be, a storage system, A reservoir. A place where water lives instead of just passing through. And with the water comes more life. The droplets on the web aren't empty. They couldn't be. Not after everything that's happened. Each one contains microscopic creatures, awakened from their ancient sleep, swimming in their new worlds, multiplying, thriving. You watch them through the curved walls of their prisons, these tiny beings that owe their existence to your theft, and you feel something you've never felt before. Responsibility. Not just for yourself, not just for your survival, but for them. For all of them. That the night deepens. The stars emerge in their thousands, scattered across the sky like grains of sugar on dark cloth. The Southern Cross appears, tilting on its side, and you wonder if the gods live up there. If they're watching this tiny drama unfold on the surface of a world they mostly ignore. Probably not. Gods have better things to do than watch spiders wait. But then, around midnight, you feel it. A change in the air, a pressure drop that has nothing to do with weather and everything to do with presence. The moisture on the web begins to tremble, each droplet vibrating with a frequency that wasn't there before. And in the distance, you see him, Rain Spirit, walking across the plain. And this time he's not carrying a This time, his hands are empty, and his face is set in an expression that promises exactly zero mercy. He's bigger than you remember. Or maybe that's just the fear talking. He towers over the spinifex, over the rocks, over everything except the sky itself, and each step he takes leaves a faint shimmer in the air behind him, a ghost of moisture that evaporates almost instantly in the dry night. He's heading straight for you. He knows exactly where his water went. Of course he does. The other spider has vanished completely, hidden somewhere in the spinifex, and you don't blame her. You'd hide too if you could. But you can't. You're the one who started this. You're the one who has to face the consequences. Rain Spirit reaches the rock, stops, looks down at the web, at you, at the droplets covering every strand, at the tiny whirlwind, still spinning in the center, still gathering moisture, still doing its job. His eyes dark as storm clouds, deep as oceans narrow. Well, he says, and his voice is exactly what you'd expect. Rumbling, heavy, full of the weight of accumulated water. This is unexpected. He reaches out one massive hand, and you brace yourself for destruction, for the end of everything you've built. But he doesn't destroy. He simply touches one of the droplets on the web. The largest one. The one that still contains the original cloud water you stole. His finger guard. His finger is bigger than your entire body, presses gently against the surface. And through the droplet you can see his expression change. Confusion, at first. Then, surprise. Then something that might almost be wonder. There's life in here, he says quietly. Life that wasn't there before. Life that hasn't existed since. He trails off. And you realize he's counting, calculating, remembering. Since before the last great drying. Since before this land became what it is. These creatures, they're ancient. They're supposed to be dormant. They're supposed to wait until the rains return properly. Until the whole continent greens again. Not wait for a single stolen cloud. He looks at you, and for the first time, he actually sees you. Not as a thief, not as an annoyance, but as a living creature with its own existence. Its own choices, its own consequences. You did this, he says. You stole my water, and in doing so, you woke things that should have stayed sleeping. You changed the timeline. You accelerated processes that were supposed to take centuries. A pause. Do you have any idea what you've done? You don't. How could you? You're a spider. You were thirsty. You saw water and you took it. Everything after that was just survival. But Rain Spirit isn't finished. He's looking at the web now, at the arrangement of droplets, at the way the starlight catches them and throws tiny reflections across the rock. He's looking at the tiny whirlwind still spinning, still working, still adding to the collection. And slowly, very slowly, his expression changes. The anger doesn't disappear. Exactly, but it shifts. It makes room for something else. Something that might, in a being as old and powerful as a god, be called curiosity. Whirlwind helped you, he says. It's not a question. He left his mark here. His signature. Why would he do that? Why would he care about a spider and some stolen water? You can't answer, but you don't have to. The evidence is all around you. The web, the droplets, the life, the tiny, persistent whirlwind that refuses to stop spinning. Whatever whirlwind saw in you, whatever made him laugh and help and leave, it's written into every strand of silk, every drop of water, every awakened creature swimming in its new world. Rain Spirit is silent for a long moment. Then he does something that makes your 8 eyes widen in shock. He sits down, right there on the rock, cross-legged, his massive form settling like a mountain, taking a rest. He's not leaving. He's not destroying. He's staying. Tell me, he says, looking at you with those deep, dark eyes. Tell me how a spider stole my water, survived my friend's whirlwind, landed in a web, and somehow created more life in one day than I've managed in 1,000 years. I want to understand. And you realize, with a start, that you can, not with words, you still don't have those, but with vibrations, with patterns, with a language spiders have used since before gods walked the earth. You step forward on the web, place your front legs on a strand, and begin to send your story through the silt. The theft, the fall, the droplet, the web, the colors, the life, everything. You send it all. And Rain Spirit sits there on his rock, feeling the vibrations through the air, through the ground, through whatever connection gods have to the world around them. And he listens. He actually listens. The story takes time, not because it's complicated. It's actually quite simple. When you strip away the terror and the falling and the near-death experiences, but because you have to translate everything into vibrations, into patterns that travel through silk and air and rock, into a language that a god can understand. You tell him about the thirst first, because that's where it all started. The days of wandering across cracked earth, the desperate search for moisture, the moment when death felt closer than survival. You make him feel it, the way your book lungs slowly dried, the way your legs began to curl, the way every instinct screamed at you to find water or die trying. Rain Spirit's expression shifts as he receives this information, not to sympathy. Exactly, gods don't do sympathy. Not really, but to something like recognition. He understands thirst. He's spent eternity dealing with it, fighting against it, occasionally succumbing to it when the dry spells lasted too long and even his power couldn't summon moisture from nothing. He knows what it means to want water so badly that you'd do anything, risk anything, steal from anyone. Then you tell him about the koalaman, about seeing it there on the ground, unattended, while he and Whirlwind argued about things that didn't matter to a dying spider, about the moment you decided to climb inside, knowing it was wrong, knowing you'd be stealing from something far more powerful than yourself, but doing it anyway because thirst had erased every other consideration. You show him the terror of that climb, the way your claws found purchase in the ancient wood, the moment you tumbled over the rim and into the clouds. He flinches at that part, actually flinches, a slight tightening of his massive frame, and you realize you've shown him something he never considered, the vulnerability of his power. He carries clouds like you carry nothing, casually, without thought, without considering that something small and desperate might see them not as sacred objects, but as salvation. The thought has never occurred to him. Why would it? He's a god. Gods don't think about spiders. You continue. The drinking, the feeling of water entering every parched cell, every dried out tissue, every part of you that had been slowly dying. You make him feel that too. The ecstasy of hydration, the relief so intense, it was almost painful. And then the tipping, the fall. The moment when Whirlwind caught you and carried you across the plain at speeds that should have torn you apart. You show him the blurring landscape, the terrified animals, the strange beauty of being inside a droplet, while the world rushed past outside. By the time you reach the landing, the web, the escape from your watery prison, Rain Spirit is leaning forward, his chin resting on one massive hand, his eyes fixed on you with an intensity that would be terrifying if you had any energy left for terror. He's not just listening, he's learning about a world he's never noticed, a world of tiny creatures and desperate choices and consequences that ripple outward in ways no god could predict. And then you show him the colors. This is the hardest part to translate, because colors don't have vibrations. They don't have patterns. They're just there, visual and immediate and impossible to convey through touch alone. But you try. You show him the angle of the light, the curve of the droplet, the way the two interacted to create something that hadn't existed before. You show him the red and yellow and blue on the rock, faint but real, proof that even stolen water could create beauty. You show him the moment when you realized that this was important, that this mattered beyond your own survival, that you'd stumbled onto something that might change everything. Rain Spirit is silent for a long time after that. The tiny whirlwind continues its work beside you, gathering moisture, adding droplets to the web. The night deepens around you, the stars wheeling slowly overhead, and the god sits on his rock, processing everything you've shown him, trying to fit this new information into an understanding of the world that's remained unchanged for millennia. Finally, he speaks. The colors, he says slowly. You're telling me that light, passing through water, can create something that isn't in the light itself, something new. You vibrate confirmation. Asterisk, yes. I saw it. Others will see it too, if the conditions are right. If there's water and light and something to catch them both. Asterisk, and you think this matters. These temporary colors, these fleeting illusions. You think about the way your 8 eyes widened when you first saw them. The way something in your spider soul recognized them as beautiful, as significant, as worth noticing. You think about the other spider, still hidden in the spnifex, who might have seen them too if she'd been watching at the right moment. You think about all the creatures who've lived and died on this plane without ever seeing anything like what you saw. Yes, you vibrate. Asterisk, it matters. Beauty matters. Even temporary beauty, especially temporary beauty, because it reminds us that the world can be more than just survival, more than just thirst and death and waiting for rain. It can be. This asterisk rain spirit considers this. You can see him turning it over in his mind, testing it against everything he knows, everything he's always believed. He spent eternity as a bringer of water, a giver of life, a force that sustains rather than creates. His job is to provide the raw material, not to appreciate what happens after. The idea that the water itself, the thing he carries and guards and occasionally spills, could be part of something beautiful, something beyond mere survival is new to him. Disorienting, possibly profound. I need to think about this, he says finally, and there's something almost human in the way he says it. I need to understand what it means, what it changes. He looks at you, and for the first time, you see something like respect in those ancient eyes. You've given me a lot to consider, little spider, more than any creature has given me in thousands of years. He rises, his massive form unfolding like a mountain waking from sleep. The rock groans beneath him, and the spinifex bends away from his presence. But he doesn't leave immediately. Instead, he reaches out and touches the largest droplet again, the one that started it all, and you feel a surge of power pass through it, not destructive. Something else, something that makes the droplet glow faintly from within, that makes the tiny creatures inside swim faster, grow larger, multiply more quickly. A gift, he says, for showing me something new. This water will never dry now. It will remain, always. A reminder of what a spider taught a god. He pauses, and a faint smile crosses his features. The first smile you've seen from him. Though if you ever steal from me again, I will rain on you so hard you'll drown standing up. Understood. You vibrate understanding. You also vibrate something else. Something that might be gratitude, or might be relief, or might just be the exhaustion of a very long day, finally catching up with you. Rain Spirit nods. Once, and then, he's walking away, across the plain, his form gradually fading into the darkness, until there's nothing left but the memory of his presence, and the faint glow of the enchanted droplet. The other spider emerges from her hiding place, creeping cautiously back onto the web. Her vibrations are questioning, confused, slightly odd. Asterisk, what just happened? Asterisk, you don't have an answer, not one that makes sense. Anyway, so instead, you just settle onto the silk, close your 8 eyes, and let the exhaustion take you. Tomorrow, there will be time to figure out what it all means. Tonight, there's only sleep, and the gentle spinning of a tiny whirlwind, and the soft glow of water that will never dry. You dream. Spiders don't usually dream, at least. Scientists don't think they do, but you're not exactly a typical spider anymore, are you? You've stolen from gods, been carried by whirlwinds, and taught a rain spirit about beauty. Normal rules don't apply, so you dream, and in your dream you're falling again. But this time the fall is soft, endless, more like floating than falling. Below you, the whole continent spreads out, red and vast and empty. And you can see everything at once. The mountains, the deserts, the narrow green fringes, where the ocean meets the land. And you can see the water, too. Not much of it, not yet, but traces. Ghosts of rivers that used to run, shadows of lakes that used to exist. The memory of wetness, written into the land like scars. You wake to light. Morning light, golden and gentle, slanting across the web and turning every droplet into a tiny star. The whirlwind is still there, still spinning, though it's smaller now, quieter, like it's running on whatever cosmic batteries whirlwind left behind. The enchanted droplet glows faintly in the center of the web, its inhabitants swimming in lazy circles, clearly thriving. And all around you, for as far as you can see, something has changed. The plane is different. You notice it immediately, even through the disorientation of waking. The air is wetter. Not much. Just a few percentage points of humidity that you can feel through every hair on your body, but enough to notice, enough to matter. And the ground, the cracked, dead ground that stretched in every direction yesterday, is no longer quite so dead. Tiny shoots are emerging from the dust, pale green and fragile, reaching toward the sun, like they've been waiting for this moment forever. Which they have. Actually, they've been waiting for water. And now, thanks to you, thanks to your theft and your fall and your enchanted droplet, water has come. But how? You haven't moved. The droplet hasn't spilled. The whirlwind hasn't done anything except gather moisture from the air. And yet, here it is. Life, emerging from death, all around you. You look closer at the enchanted droplet, at its faint glow, and you begin to understand. Rain Spirit's gift wasn't just to that one droplet. It was to everything. His power, his essence, touched that water and then radiated outward. Through the web, through the rock, through the soil beneath. It called to the dormant seeds, to the waiting spores, to every tiny spark of life that had been holding on through millennia of drought. And they answered. The other spider is awake too, staring at the transformation with what you can only describe as arachnid amazement. She's never seen anything like this. Neither have you, neither has anyone, because this is literally the first time in the history of this continent that real, life-giving rain has fallen, or rather, not fallen, emerged, crept up from below, drawn by the power of a god's blessing, manifesting as moisture in the air, and water in the soil, and life in every crack and crevice. By midday, the transformation is unmistakable. The plain that was red and dead is now dotted with green. Not thick green, not lush green, but green nonetheless. Patches of grass where there was only dust, tiny flowers where there was only emptiness. And with the plants come the animals. Insects first, emerging from their own long dormancy, drawn by the sudden abundance of food. Then lizards, darting from under rocks to feast on the insects. Then birds, descending from the sky to feast on the lizards. A whole ecosystem, springing to life in hours instead of centuries. All because one spider was thirsty enough to steal from a god. You watch it all from your web, and you feel something you've never felt before. Pride. No, that's not quite right. Satisfaction. Closer, but still not exact. What you feel is connection. You're a part of this now. Part of the life that's spreading across the plain. Part of the story that's being written in green and gold, and the shimmer of water and sunlight. The other spiders, because there are more now, drawn by the sudden abundance of prey, build their webs nearby. And each web catches the light. Each web holds droplets. Each web creates its own tiny rainbows when the sun hits just right. And the colors, oh, the colors, they're everywhere now. In the flowers, red and yellow and blue and purple, scattered across the green like jewels. In the birds, feathers shimmering with iridescence. In the sky itself, as the sun sets and paints the clouds in shades of orange and pink and gold. The world has become beautiful, and you did that. You, a tiny spider who was just trying not to die. But the greatest beauty, the one that matters most, doesn't appear until the next morning. You wake to find the web transformed. Overnight, as temperatures dropped and humidity rose, every single strand has collected a perfect line of droplets. They hang there, thousands of them, each one a tiny sphere catching the first light of dawn. And as the sun crests the horizon, as its rays hit the web at exactly the right angle, something extraordinary happens. The colors appear. Not just a few, not just faint suggestions, but a full spectrum, arcing across the sky where the web's mist intersects with the light. Red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, violet. A bridge of color, stretching from one side of the web to the other, so bright and so real that it seems almost solid. The other spider stops her morning hunt to stare. The birds in the nearby bushes fall silent. Even the wind seems to hold its breath. And you, the spider who started it all, watch from the center of your web as the first rainbow in the history of the world appears exactly where you made it possible. It's not permanent. It fades as the sun rises higher, as the angle shifts, as the droplets gradually evaporate. But while it lasts, it's the most beautiful thing anyone has ever seen. And you know, with a certainty that goes deeper than thought, that it won't be the last. Now that the world knows how, now that the pattern has been set, rainbows will appear whenever conditions are right. After rain, in waterfalls, in the spray of waves against cliffs, everywhere that light meets water, everywhere that beauty can be born from the simplest elements. The gods, you suspect, are watching. Rain Spirit, from wherever he's wandered. Whirlwind, spinning across some distant plain. They're seeing what their gifts have created, what a spider's desperation has unleashed upon the world. And you hope, wherever they are, that they're smiling. Because this moment, this rainbow, this transformation of death into life, this is worth more than all the clouds in all the koalamans. This is what water was always meant to do. Not just sustain, but inspire. Not just keep alive, but make alive worth living. Below you, the plain continues to green. Above you, the sky continues to brighten. And around you, the web continues to hold. Each strand a testament to the strange, impossible journey that brought you here. You settle onto the silk, close your eyes, and let the warmth of the sun soak into your body. There will be more to do, more to see, more to create. But for now, just for now, you rest. You've earned it. You don't know how long you sleep. Time moves differently when you've touched the divine. When you've been blessed by gods and carried by whirlwinds and watched the world transform around you. It could be hours. It could be days. All you know is that when you finally open your eyes again, everything has changed. Not the plain that's still green, still thriving, still dotted with flowers and birds, and the endless busy hum of insects living their short, intense lives. No, what's changed is closer, much closer. You look down at yourself, something spiders don't usually do, because why would they? And you see that you're different. Your exoskeleton, once a dull, dusty brown that blended perfectly with the dead earth, is now something else entirely. It shimmers. It catches the light and throws it back in ways that shouldn't be possible for a creature made of chitin and instinct. There are patterns on your abdomen that weren't there before. Swirling designs that look almost like, well, like the inside of a whirlwind. Like the surface of a droplet catching the sun. Like a rainbow, frozen and miniaturized and painted onto your very body. You move a leg, and the movement sends ripples of color across your exoskeleton, iridescent and shifting. You're beautiful. You're absolutely, impossibly beautiful, and you have no idea how to feel about this. The other spider is there, watching you from her corner of the web. She's changed too, not as dramatically, but you can see it. A faint shimmer along her legs. A subtle pattern emerging on her cephalothorax. Whatever Rain Spirit's blessing did, it didn't limit itself to one spider. It spread. It touched everything connected to this web. Everything that was here when the power flowed through the enchanted droplet. You're all marked now. You're all transformed. She approaches cautiously, her vibrations carrying a mixture of awe and confusion. Asterisk, what are we? She seems to ask. Asterisk, what have we become? Asterisk, you don't have an answer. How could you? You're a spider. You were thirsty. You stole water. Everything after that is as mysterious to you as it is to her. But you suspect, with a growing certainty, that this is only the beginning. That the changes you're seeing in yourselves are just the first ripple of a much larger wave. That the world, having tasted transformation, will never stop transforming. You need to see more. Need to understand what's happened to you. What's happened to this place. What's happened to the very fabric of reality since you decided to climb into a god's core. So you move. Carefully, cautiously, you descend from the web, climbing down the spinifex stalk that anchors it to the ground. The stalk feels different under your feet, greener, stronger, more alive than any plant you've ever touched. It practically hums with vitality. With the sheer joy of being alive after so long in suspended animation, you reach the ground and pause. The soil, once cracked and dead, is now soft and damp under your feet. Tiny plants crowd around you, their leaves so green they almost hurt to look at. And everywhere, there are insects. Beetles scuttling through the undergrowth. Ants marching in columns that stretch as far as you can see. Flies buzzing in clouds so thick they obscure the view. The plain that was empty is now full. Overflowing with life that's been waiting centuries for this moment. And among all this life, you notice something strange. The insects, the plants, even the soil itself, they all have a faint shimmer. The same shimmer you saw on the other spider. The same iridescence that now covers your own body. Rain Spirit's blessing didn't just touch this web. It touched everything. It saturated the entire area, seeped into every living thing, transformed the very essence of this place into something new, something beautiful, something that will never be the same. You walk further, and the world unfolds around you, in ways you couldn't have imagined. A creek is formed, flowing along the line of an ancient riverbed. Its water clear and cold, and absolutely teeming with life. Tiny fish dart through the shallows. Insects skate across the surface. And on the bank, drinking from the edge, a kangaroo and her joey. They see you, of course they see you. You're right there, and for a moment, you expect them to flee. But they don't. They just watch. Their dark eyes calm, almost respectful. Like they know, like they understand what you did, what you started, what you made possible. You keep walking. Past the creek. Past the growing forest of spinifex and acacia. Past the flowers that bloom in colors no flower has ever worn before. And everywhere you go, the creatures you encounter react the same way. They stop. They watch. They acknowledge you in ways that have nothing to do with predator and prey. with fear and hunger. They see you as something more than a spider. They see you as the one who brought the water, the one who changed everything. It's overwhelming. You're not used to being seen. Spiders are supposed to be invisible, hidden, unnoticed until it's too late. That's how you survive. That's how you thrive. But you can't be invisible anymore. Your shimmering exoskeleton gives you away with every step. Your transformed presence announces itself to every creature within range. You're a celebrity in a world that doesn't even have a word for celebrity. Eventually, you turn back. The web is still there, still glowing faintly in the afternoon light, still surrounded by the life it helped create. The other spider is waiting for you. And as you climb back up, the spinifex stalks. She sends you a vibration that might be relief, or might be loneliness, or might just be the simple pleasure of having company in a world that's changing too fast to understand. They know. You vibrate back. Asterisk, all of them. They know what happened. Asterisk, she considers this. Asterisk, is that good? Asterisk, you don't know. You honestly don't know. Being known is dangerous for creatures like you. Being seen means being targeted, being hunted, being destroyed by things that notice your existence and decide to end it. But being known also means being remembered, being part of something larger than yourself, being the spider who brought rain to a dry land, who created the first rainbow, who taught a god about beauty. That's worth something. That's worth the risk. You settle onto the web, feeling the familiar vibration of silk beneath your feet, and watch as the sun begins its slow descent toward the horizon. The colors in the sky deepen, shift, become something almost too beautiful to bear. And in the center of the web, the enchanted droplet glows softly, eternally. A reminder of everything that happened, and everything that's still to come. Tomorrow, you'll explore more. Tomorrow, you'll try to understand what you've become, what this world has become, what the future holds for a creature who accidentally changed everything. But tonight, you rest. Tonight, you let the transformation settle. Tonight, you're just a spider in a web, watching the stars emerge one by one above a world that's finally, beautifully, alive. Morning comes gently, the way it always does now, in this transformed place. The sun eases over the horizon, like it's afraid to startle the world awake. And the light that spills across the plain is soft, golden, almost tender. You've been awake for hours. Spiders don't sleep the way humans do, just drift in and out of consciousness while remaining alert to vibrations. And you've watched the stars fade one by one, watched the sky shift from black to deep blue, to pale gray, to the first hints of pink and gold. And now, as the sun finally appears, you're ready. You've been thinking all night, not in words, because spiders don't have words, but in patterns, in connections, in the slow dawning of understanding that comes when a creature has time to process everything that's happened. You've stolen from gods. You've been blessed by gods. You've watched a dead world come alive. And through it all, one thing has haunted you: the colors. The way light broke apart when it passed through water. The way something new could be created from something old. The way beauty could emerge from the simplest elements. This morning, you're going to understand it. You position yourself carefully on the web, choosing a strand near the center where the light will hit first. The enchanted droplet hangs nearby, its faint glow, a constant presence. But you're not interested in that today. You're interested in the ordinary droplets, the ones that form every night as the air cools and moisture condenses on the silk. They're everywhere this morning, thousands of them. Each one a perfect sphere, holding a tiny reflection of the world. The sun crests the horizon, light floods across the plain, and you watch. For a moment, nothing happens. The droplets just sit there, catching the light, sparkling like tiny diamonds. But then, as the angle shifts, as the sun rises just high enough, something changes. The light that passes through each droplet doesn't just continue on its way. It bends. It splits. It separates into components that weren't visible before. And on the rock below the web, on the leaves of the spinifex, on the backs of insects passing by, colors appear. You watch them form. These impossible colors, these gifts of light and water. Red appears first, warm and bold, painting a stripe across a nearby rock. Then orange, softer, blending into yellow so bright it almost hurts to look at. Green follows, the green of new leaves, of life itself. Blue appears, the blue of the sky reflected and transformed. And finally, at the edge, violet so deep it's almost purple. So rich it seems to absorb light rather than reflect it. The other spider joins you, watching in silence. More spiders have built webs nearby, now dozens of them. Drawn by the abundance of prey, and their webs catch the light too, each one creating its own tiny rainbows. The effect is overwhelming. Colors everywhere, overlapping, blending, shifting as the sun rises and the angle changes. The whole area has become a cathedral of light. A place where the ordinary rules of vision are suspended and something magical takes their place. And then you see it. The rainbow, the real rainbow dot. It starts at the top of the rock, where a cluster of droplets has formed on an overhang. The light hits them, splits, and instead of just painting colors on nearby surfaces, it projects them into the air. A arc of color, faint at first, barely visible against the blue sky. But as more droplets catch the light, as more strands of silk contribute their own refractions, the arc strengthens, deepens, becomes something solid enough to almost touch. It spans from the rock to the creek. This rainbow, this bridge of color that didn't exist a moment ago. It's not permanent, you know that now. Understand that rainbows are visitors, not residents, but while it lasts, it's the most beautiful thing you've ever seen. And you realize, with a start, that you're not just watching it. You're part of it. Your web, your droplets, your transformed existence, they're all contributing to this moment. You're not just a spectator. You're a creator. The creatures below, notice. A family of kangaroos stops their morning grazing to stare at the arc of color. A goanna freezes on its rock, its primitive brain struggling to process something so far outside its experience. Birds wheel overhead, their calls changing from alarm to curiosity, to something that might almost be appreciation. They don't understand what they're seeing, but they know it's important. They know it's beautiful. They know that something has changed in their world, something that matters. And you, the spider, who started it all, watch from your web as the first rainbow in history becomes the first rainbow that anyone actually sees. The ones before the ones that appeared while you were alone. While the world was still dead, they don't count. They were practiced, they were proof of concept. This one, this arc of color, stretching across a living landscape, witnessed by creatures capable of wonder, this one is real. The rainbow lasts for maybe 10 minutes. Then the sun rises higher, the angle shifts, and the colors fade. The arc dissolves into ordinary light. The droplets continue to sparkle, but they no longer create magic. The moment is over. But something lingers. Something in the way the kangaroos look at the sky, searching for what they just saw. Something in the way the birds continue to wheel, reluctant to return to ordinary flight. Something in the way you feel, sitting on your web, knowing that you helped create something that will outlast you. Outlast this place. Outlast everything. The other spider vibrates a question. Asterisk, will it come back? Asterisk, you consider. You've watched the pattern now. Seen how light and water and angle must align perfectly for the colors to appear. You know that tomorrow morning, if conditions are right, it could happen again, and the morning after that, and the morning after that. Not every day. Some days will be too cloudy, some too dry, some too bright, but often enough. Often enough that the creatures of this plane will come to expect it, will come to love it, will come to build their lives around the moments when the world becomes more than itself. Yes, you vibrate back. Asterisk, it will come back. And when it does, we'll be here to see it. Asterisk, you settle onto the silk. Your shimmering exoskeleton catching the morning light, and wait. Not for anything specific, just for whatever comes next. Because in a world that can create rainbows, in a world where a spider can change everything, anything is possible, anything at all. Days pass, then weeks, then months. Time flows differently when you're not counting, when you're just living. When each day brings new wonders and new questions and new reasons to be grateful for being alive. The plain that was dead is now lush, almost jungle-like in its intensity. The creek has grown into a river, winding across the landscape and carving new channels through soil that was once too hard to break. Trees have appeared where there were only bushes, their roots reaching deep into ground that remembers what it means to hold water. And the rainbows. Oh, the rainbows. They come every morning now, regular as sunrise, predictable as breath. The spiders have learned to build their webs in specific orientations, angling the silk to catch the light just right. They've learned which strands to reinforce, which to abandon, which to position for maximum effect. They've become artists without knowing the word, creators without understanding the concept. They just build, and the light does the rest. Your web is the center of it all. The enchanted droplet, still glowing, still eternal, anchors everything. Its presence seems to amplify the effect, to make the colors brighter, the arcs more distinct, the magic more real. Spiders come from miles around to build near you, to learn from you, to be part of whatever this is that you've started. You've become something like a leader, though you never asked for the role. You just existed, and the world responded. The other creatures have adapted to. The kangaroos time their morning visits to coincide with the rainbows. standing in specific spots where the colors fall across their fur. The birds have learned to fly through the arcs, emerging on the other side with feathers that shimmer in new ways. Even the insects seem to appreciate the beauty, gathering on rocks where the light is strongest and basking in colors they can barely perceive. But it's not just the mornings anymore. You've discovered that rainbows can appear at other times too. After rain, when the air is thick with moisture and the sun breaks through the clouds, in the spray of the river where it tumbles over rocks, in the mist that rises from the ground on cool mornings. Everywhere that light meets water, everywhere that conditions are right, the colors appear. The world has become a place of constant, casual magic, and you're responsible. The gods, you've learned, are watching. Not constantly, they have other things to do, other worlds to tend, other creatures to ignore, but often enough, you feel their presence sometimes. A shift in the air, a change in the light, a moment when the world seems to hold its breath. Rain spirit comes most often, sitting on his rock and watching the morning display with an expression you've come to recognize as something like pride. Whirlwind visits too, spinning through the webs and making the droplets dance before disappearing over the horizon with a laugh that sounds like wind chimes. They don't speak to you anymore. They don't need to. Everything that needed to be said has been said. Now there's just this. The rainbows, the life, the transformation. Now there's just the ongoing miracle of a world that learned to be beautiful. One morning, something new happens. The rainbow appears as usual, arcing from the rock to the river, bright and clear and perfect. But this time, it doesn't fade. The sun rises higher, the angle shifts, and still the colors remain. You watch, confused, as the arc persists, as the light continues to split, as the magic refuses to end. Something has changed. Something has shifted. The rainbow has become permanent. You descend from your web, needing to understand. You follow the arc to its base, where the rock meets the river, and there you find the answer. The enchanted droplet, your droplet. The one rain spirit blessed has moved. Somehow, impossibly, it's traveled from your web to this spot. And now it hangs in the air above the river, glowing steadily, feeding light into the rainbow and keeping it alive. Your droplet has become a permanent fixture, a source of endless color. A reminder that some gifts never fade. And you understand, finally, what rain spirit meant when he blessed it. He didn't just make it eternal. He made it a seed, a source, a beginning. This rainbow will never fade because this droplet will never stop doing what it does. And from this rainbow, others will grow. Other droplets will catch its light. Other webs will form. Other arcs will appear. The magic will spread, will multiply, will eventually cover the whole continent. And then the whole world. You stand there you crouch there, because you're a spider at the base of the first permanent rainbow, and you feel something you've never felt before. Completion, not the end of the story, because stories never really end, but the sense that a chapter has closed, that a journey has reached its destination, that everything you went through was worth it for this single moment. Behind you, the other spiders have gathered. They're watching you, waiting, their vibrations carrying questions you can't answer and hopes you can't fulfill. They look to you for guidance, for wisdom, for the next step in a journey that none of them understand. And you realize, with a start, that you have to give them something. Not answers, you don't have those, but direction, purpose, a reason to keep building, keep creating, keep making the world more beautiful than it was before. You climb back to your web, feeling the familiar vibration of silk beneath your feet, and you begin to send a message, not through words, because you still don't have those, but through patterns, through rhythms, through the language spiders have used since before time began. You tell them about thirst, about desperation, about the moment when you chose to steal from a god rather than die. You tell them about falling, about spinning, about landing in a web that became a home. You tell them about the colors, about the rainbows, about the way light can become magic when it passes through water. And you tell them that they're part of this now, that every web they build, every strand they spin, every droplet they collect contributes to something larger than themselves. That they're not just spiders anymore. They're creators. They're artists. They're the reason the world has color, that the message spreads. From your web to the next, from that web to the next, across the whole plane. Through every spider who's gathered here, and every spider who will come after. They understand. Not in the way humans understand, with words and concepts and careful reasoning, but in the way spiders understand, with vibrations and patterns and the deep, instinctive knowledge that comes from being part of something larger than yourself. And as the message spreads, as the understanding grows, the permanent rainbow continues to shine, its colors steady and true. a beacon for everything that's possible when a tiny creature decides that dying of thirst isn't an option. You watch it from your web, this arc of light that will never fade, and you know that your work here is done. Not your life you'll live as long as spiders live, which isn't long but is enough. But your work, your purpose, the thing you were meant to do. Now there's only this, the rainbows, the life, the ongoing miracle of a world that will never be the same. And you, the spider who started it all, watching from your web as the colors dance across the sky. The news spreads faster than you expect. Within days, creatures from across the continent have heard about the permanent rainbow, about the enchanted droplet, about the spider who changed everything. They come from everywhere, from the eastern mountains where the air is thin and cold, from the western deserts where the sand stretches forever, from the southern coasts where the ocean crashes against cliffs that have stood since before time began. They come to see, to witness, to understand what's happened to their world. You watch them arrive from your web, this endless procession of creatures who've never met each other, never shared the same space, never had any reason to gather in one place. Kangaroos and wallabies, wombats and echidnas, goannas and snakes, birds of every color and size. They crowd the banks of the river, perch on the rocks, fill the trees until branches bend under their weight, and they all look at the same thing, the rainbow, permanent, unchanging, arcing across the sky like a promise written in light. The gods notice too. You feel them gathering somewhere above, beyond the clouds, beyond the sky itself. Their presence is heavy, expectant, like the air before a storm. They've come to witness, to judge, to decide what this new thing means for the order they've maintained since the world began. And you realize, with a chill that runs through all 8 of your legs, that this moment isn't just about you anymore. It's about everything. About whether beauty has a place in a world built on survival. About whether a spider's theft can become a gift. About whether the old ways can make room for something new. Rain Spirit arrives first, descending from the sky in a cascade of actual rain that soaks the gathered creatures and makes them squawk and scatter before they realize it's him. He lands on his rock, the same rock where he sat months ago, listening to your story, and nods at you with something like respect. Whirlwind follows, spinning down in a funnel of dust and leaves that deposits him right next to the permanent rainbow, where he stares at it with an expression you can't quite read. And then others come, gods you've never seen, never imagined, beings so ancient and powerful that just their presence makes the air feel thick, makes the light seem dimmer, makes every creature in the vicinity want to curl up and hide. There's the sun spirit, blazing and brilliant, whose light makes the rainbow even brighter just by being near. The earth spirit, solid and slow, whose weight settles the ground beneath all these creatures and makes them feel safe. The sky spirit, vast and empty, who seems to contain all the space between stars and still have room for more. And others, dozens of them, each one a force of nature, given form, each one watching you with eyes that have seen continents rise and fall, species appear and vanish, time itself bend to their will. You should be terrified. You are terrified. Every instinct you have screams at you to hide, to flee, to pretend you're just an ordinary spider who happened to be in the wrong place at the wrong time. But you can't. You're not ordinary anymore. You're the one who started this. You're the one who has to face whatever comes next. Rain Spirit steps forward, his voice carrying across the gathered crowd. This spider, he says, stole from me, climbed into my koalaman while I was distracted, and helped herself to clouds that I'd carried for millennia. By every law that governs gods and mortals, she should be punished, erased, reduced to the dust she crawled from. A murmur runs through the gathered creatures, through the gods themselves. This is not the beginning they expected. But, Rain Spirit continues, and the word hangs in the air like a suspended droplet. She also taught me something I'd forgotten in all my years of carrying water, all my centuries of sustaining life. She reminded me that water isn't just for survival. It's for beauty. It's for wonder. It's for creating things that have no purpose except to be beautiful. He gestures at the rainbow, at the colors that haven't faded, at the magic that continues to flow from the enchanted droplet. Look at this. Look at what a spider, acting only from thirst, managed to create. Look at the life it's brought, the creatures it's gathered, the wonder it's inspired. And tell me that punishment is the right response. Silence. The gods exchange glances, communicating in ways that mortals can't perceive. The creatures hold their breath, waiting for judgment. And you, the spider at the center of it all, wait to learn whether your theft will be forgiven, or whether everything you've built will be destroyed. Finally, the sun spirit speaks. Her voice is warm, like sunlight on cool skin. But there's an edge to it that reminds you she's been burning for billions of years, and will burn for billions more. This is unprecedented. A mortal, acting alone, has changed the fundamental nature of reality. The world now has something it didn't have before: permanent beauty. Not beauty that appears and fades, but beauty that endures. That matters. The earth spirit rumbles agreement. The land itself has been transformed. Where there was death, there's now life. Where there was emptiness, there's now abundance. This spider has done more for this continent in months than we've done in millennia. One by one, the gods speak. Some argue for punishment, for maintaining the old order, for ensuring that mortals don't get ideas above their station. But more argue for acceptance, for celebration, for recognizing that something genuinely new has entered the world, and that new things deserve to be honored, not destroyed. The debate continues for what feels like hours, the air thick with divine argument, the creatures below shifting nervously as the fate of their world hangs in the balance. And then Whirlwind speaks. He's been quiet until now, spinning slowly beside the rainbow, watching the debate with an expression that might be amusement or might be boredom. But when he finally opens his mouth, everyone listens. "You're all missing the point," he says, and his voice carries the sound of wind through canyons, of storms across oceans, of everything that moves and changes and never stays still. This isn't about punishment or reward. This isn't about maintaining order or celebrating change. This is about something simpler. This spider did something extraordinary. She took what she needed and created something beautiful. That's it. That's the whole story. He pauses, letting his words sink in. The question isn't whether she should be punished or rewarded. The question is whether we're brave enough to admit that a creature smaller than my smallest dust devil has taught us something about ourselves, about what we've forgotten, about what really matters. Silence. The kind of silence that happens when truth lands like a stone in still water. The gods look at each other, then at you, then at the rainbow that continues to shine, patient and eternal, waiting for them to catch up. Brain Spirit steps forward again. "I move," he says, "that this spider be recognized for what she's done, not punished, not rewarded, recognized, given a place in the stories that will be told about this world, in the memories that will be passed from generation to generation, in the very fabric of reality itself. Let her be remembered. Let her be honored. Let her be the reason that every time light meets water, color appears." The other gods nod, one by one. The Sun Spirit, the Earth Spirit, the Sky Spirit. Even those who argued for punishment eventually agree, their resistance worn down by the simple power of what's been created. And Whirlwind, still spinning, still smiling, adds one more thing. "And let her descendants carry the mark of what she did. Let every spider, from this day forward, have the ability to create beauty. Let their webs catch the light. Let their silk hold the rain. Let them be reminders that even the smallest creatures can change the world." The decree is made. You feel it settle over you, like a second skin, like a blessing, like a weight you'll carry forever. And then the gods begin to leave, ascending back to wherever they came from, their presence fading until only the ordinary light remains. But the rainbow stays. The enchanted droplet stays. And you, the spider who started it all, stay. The gathered creatures begin to disperse, returning to their lives, their homes, their ordinary existences. But they'll remember this day. They'll tell their children about the time the gods gathered to honor a spider. They'll pass the story down through generations, until it becomes legend, until it becomes myth, until it becomes the explanation for why rainbows appear, and why spiders build their webs just so. And you, sitting on your web, watching the colors dance across the sky, feel something settle in your heart. Peace. Not the peace of ending, but the peace of belonging. The peace of knowing your place in a story that will outlast you. The peace of being exactly where you're supposed to be, doing exactly what you're supposed to do. The sun sets. The stars emerge. The rainbow continues to shine. A bridge of color between earth and sky, between mortal and divine, between what was and what will be. And you, the smallest of creatures, watch it all from your web, grateful for every moment of the impossible journey that brought you here. The seasons turn. The world settles into its new rhythm, the one you helped create. And life on the plain becomes something it never was before. Predictable. Not in a boring way, never boring. Not with rainbows appearing every morning and creatures coming from everywhere to see them. But predictable in the sense that things happen when they're supposed to happen, the way they're supposed to happen. The river rises and falls. The flowers bloom and fade. The spiders build and rebuild, their webs catching light and water and turning them into magic. You've grown old. Not human old, which takes decades, but spider-old, which takes months. Your body, still shimmering with the marks of divine attention, moves more slowly now. Your legs, once quick and precise, now ache after long days of web building. Your 8 eyes, still sharp enough to spot the smallest prey, sometimes struggle to focus in the bright morning light when the rainbows are at their strongest. You're dying. You know this, the way all creatures know it, deep in whatever passes for a soul. Your time is running out, but you're not afraid. How could you be, after everything? You've stolen from gods, been blessed by gods, watched a dead world come alive. You've created something that will outlast you, that will outlast your children and your children's children, that will last as long as there's light and water and spiders to bring them together. Death is just another transformation, just another step in a journey that's been surprising you from the beginning. The other spiders sense it. They gather around your web in the evenings, their vibrations gentle, questioning, full of the things they can't say in words. They've learned so much from you: how to position their webs, how to angle their silk, how to create the conditions for rainbows to appear. But they've also learned something else, something you didn't teach but they absorbed anyway. That being small doesn't mean being insignificant. That being temporary doesn't mean being forgotten. That every creature, no matter how tiny, can change the world. Your descendants, the children and grandchildren and great-grandchildren of the spider who shared your web that first night, have spread across the continent. They build their webs everywhere now, from the eastern mountains to the western deserts to the southern coasts. And everywhere they build, rainbows appear. Not permanent ones like the original, not blessed by gods and eternal, but temporary ones. Morning rainbows, evening rainbows, rainbows after rain, rainbows in mist and spray, and every place where light meets water. The world has become a place of constant, casual beauty, and it's all because of you. The gods visit sometimes. Rain spirit comes most often, sitting on his rock and watching the morning display with an expression that's become almost fond. He talks to you sometimes, tells you stories about the old days, about what the world was like before water learned to make color. You listen, and you vibrate responses, and you feel something like friendship growing between you. Not the friendship of equals. You're still a spider. He's still a god, but the friendship of beings who've shared something important, who've learned from each other, who've changed each other in ways that can never be undone. Whirlwind visits too, though less frequently. He's always moving, always spinning, always off to some new corner of the continent, where things need stirring up. But when he comes, he brings stories, 2 stories of places you'll never see, creatures you'll never meet, wonders you can't imagine. And he always ends the same way, with a laugh that sounds like wind chimes, and a question that sounds like genuine curiosity. Still here, little spider, still watching the colors dance. You always vibrate the same answer. Asterisk, still here, still watching, still grateful. Asterisk, but now, as your time runs out, you have one more thing to do, one more gift to give, one more piece of yourself to leave behind. You've been saving it for this moment. A single strand of silk, different from all the others. You spun it months ago, in the days after the god's visit, when the weight of what you'd done was still settling on your soul. It's not ordinary silk. It carries something of you in it: your memories, your experiences, your understanding of what it means to be small and change everything. You've kept it hidden, coiled in a corner of your web, waiting for the right moment to use it. Now, as the sun rises on what you know will be your last morning, you uncoil it. You begin to weave. Not a web, you're too tired for that, too close to the end. But something smaller, something simpler, a pattern, really, worked into the existing silk of your web, using that special strand to create something that wasn't there before. It takes hours, your old legs trembling with effort, your old eyes straining to see what you're creating. But you finish, just as the sun reaches the perfect angle, just as the first colors begin to appear. You finish, and then you wait. The other spiders gather, watching, wondering what you've done. The creatures of the plain, who've come to love this morning ritual, gather to. Even the gods, you suspect, are watching from wherever they are. The sun continues to rise. The light continues to shift. And then, finally, it happens. The rainbow appears, as it always does, arcing from the rock to the river, bright and beautiful and eternal. But this time, there's something else. Your pattern, woven into the web, catches the light in a different way. It splits it, shapes it, bends it into forms that have never existed before. And there, in the middle of the rainbow, an image appears. A spider, tiny, perfect, made entirely of light, sitting in the center of an arc of color that stretches across the sky. It's you, a portrait, a memory, a tribute, woven into the fabric of the first permanent rainbow, visible every morning when the light is right, lasting as long as the rainbow itself lasts, which is forever. The creatures gasp or make whatever sounds creatures make when they're amazed. The spiders vibrate with excitement, with wonder, with the dawning understanding of what you've done. And you, the original, the one who started it all, feel your body growing lighter, your vision growing dimmer, your connection to this world growing thinner, with each passing moment. But you're not sad. You're not afraid. You're exactly where you're supposed to be, doing exactly what you're supposed to do, ending exactly as you're supposed to end, with your image in the rainbow, with your story woven into light, with your legacy secured for as long as rainbows appear and spiders build their webs and creatures look up at the sky in wonder. The other spider, the one from that first night, still here after all these months, creeps close and vibrates a question. Asterisk, are you leaving? You vibrate back, as strongly as you can manage, leaving, but not gone. I'll be in the rainbow every morning. I'll be in every web that catches the light. I'll be in every droplet that helps create color. I'll be everywhere. Asterisk, she understands. They all understand. And as your vision fades completely, as your body finally relaxes into whatever comes next, you feel something you've never felt before. Peace. Complete. Total. Absolute peace. The peace of a story finished. The peace of a gift given. The peace of a life well lived. Your last thought, before everything goes dark, is of water, of that first sip from the cloud, of the feeling of hydration spreading through your parched body, of the way it felt to be saved by something as simple as a drink. And you smile. Spiders don't smile, but if they did, you would, because you know that water saved more than just you. It saved the world. It saved everything. And then there's only light, only color, only the endless, beautiful dance of rainbows across an endless, beautiful sky. The morning you leave, something extraordinary happens. Not the rainbow that appears, as it always does, arcing from the rock to the river. Your image woven into its heart, visible to all who know how to look. No, something else. Something that's never happened before. Not in all the months since the world learned to make color. The other spiders, all of them, every single one who's gathered on this plane, begin to build at once. Not individual webs, scattered and separate, but one web, together. They move in perfect synchrony, their 8 legs finding purchase on the same strands, their bodies working in harmony, their silk flowing together like water finding its level, and the web they build is unlike anything anyone has ever seen. It starts at your web, your empty web, the one you left behind, and radiates outward, strand after strand, layer after layer, connecting every web on the plane into a single, massive structure. By the time the sun is fully up, the transformation is complete. The whole area, 4 acres in every direction, is covered in silk, not thick enough to trap creatures, not strong enough to hold prey, but present, connected, unified. And when the light hits it, when the sun reaches that perfect angle, when the permanent rainbow contributes its colors, when every condition aligns just right, the effect is overwhelming. Rainbows everywhere, not just one, but hundreds, thousands, a million tiny arcs of color, each one catching the light in a slightly different way, each one contributing to a display so vast and so beautiful that even the gods, watching from above, fall silent. The creatures of the plain gather to watch. The kangaroos and wallabies, the wombats and echidnas, the goannas and snakes, the birds of every color and size. They've seen rainbows before, many times, but never like this. Never so many at once. Never so clearly a tribute, a memorial, a celebration of the tiny creature who changed everything. And in the center of it all, your empty web, still there, still glowing faintly from the enchanted droplet's influence. Still holding the pattern you wove into its silk. But now it's more than just your web. It's the heart of something larger, the seed from which everything grew, the beginning of a story that will never end. The other spider, your friend, your companion, the one who shared that first night of confusion and wonder, climbs to the center of your web and settles there, not to take your place. No one could do that but to honor it, to tend it, to make sure that your memory, your legacy, your gift to the world, never fades. Below, the river continues to flow, the plants continue to grow, the creatures continue to live their lives, hunt their prey, raise their young, but now they do it with something they didn't have before. Beauty. Constant, casual, everyday beauty. Rainbows in the morning, colors in the evening, wonder woven into the very fabric of existence. The gods, watching from above, make a decision, not a formal decree, they've done enough of those, but a quiet understanding, a silent agreement. From this day forward, Every spider will carry a mark of what happened here, a pattern on their abdomens, subtle but present, that echoes the colors of the rainbow, a tendency to build their webs in ways that catch the light, an instinct, buried deep in whatever passes for a spider soul, to create beauty even when they don't understand why. And every morning, when the sun rises and the light hits the dew, rainbows will appear, not always, not everywhere, but often enough. Often enough that creatures will come to expect them, to love them, to build their lives around them. Often enough that no one will forget the spider who started it all. The seasons continue to turn. Years pass, then decades, then centuries. The plain changes, rivers shift their courses. Forests grow and fade. Creatures appear and vanish, but the rainbows remain. The permanent one, anchored by the enchanted droplet, still arcs from the rock to the river every morning. Your image still visible in its heart. And the temporary ones, born from countless spiderwebs across countless mornings, continue to appear and fade, in an endless cycle of beauty. Spiders come and go. Generations are born, live their brief lives, and die. But each generation carries the mark, the instinct, the memory encoded in silk and light. They build their webs without knowing why they build them, just so. Without understanding that they're honoring something that happened before time began for them. But they build them anyway. And the rainbows appear anyway. And the world continues to be beautiful anyway. The story spreads, not through words, spiders don't have those, but through vibrations, through patterns, through the language that's been passed down since that first night. Every spider knows, in whatever way spiders know things, that they owe something to an ancestor who was thirsty enough to steal from a god. Every spider knows that their webs matter, that their silk matters, that the droplets they collect matter. Every spider knows that they're part of something larger than themselves. And sometimes, on very clear mornings, when the light is just right and the conditions are perfect, creatures gather at the edge of the river and look up at the permanent rainbow. And if they look closely, if they know what to search for, they can see it. A tiny shape, woven into the color. A spider, sitting in the center of an arc of light. The one who started it all. The one who taught the world that even the smallest creatures can change everything. The river flows on. The sun rises and sets. The rainbows appear and fade. And somewhere, in the heart of the light, in the memory woven into color, in the story that will never end, a tiny spider watches over it all. Content. Peaceful. Eternal. Hey guys, as we come to the end of tonight's journey, I want you to take a moment and just breathe. Really breathe. Feel the air filling your lungs, the weight of your body against whatever surface is holding you up, the gentle rhythm of your own heart, doing what it does best, keeping you alive, keeping you here, keeping you present. Think about that spider, that tiny, desperate creature, who was just trying not to die. She didn't set out to change the world. She didn't plan to create rainbows or teach gods, or transform a continent. She was just thirsty. She just wanted water. And in that simple, basic, utterly ordinary desire, she found something extraordinary. She found the power to create beauty. That's the thing about stories like this. About myths that have been passed down for thousands of years. They remind us that we don't have to be big to matter. We don't have to be powerful to change things. We don't have to be gods to create magic. Sometimes, all it takes is being exactly where we are, wanting exactly what we want, and having the courage to reach for it, even when it seems impossible. So tonight, as you drift towards sleep, I want you to carry that with you. The image of a tiny spider, sitting in her web, watching colors dance across the sky. The knowledge that beauty exists everywhere, in every moment, waiting for someone to notice it. The certainty that you, yes you, right here, right now, are part of something larger than yourself. Something that matters. Something that will outlast you. The rainbows will still be there in the morning. The webs will still catch the light. The world will still be beautiful, whether you're awake to see it or not. But for now, for these few hours, it's okay to let go. It's okay to close your eyes. It's okay to rest. Let the colors fade. Let the light dim. Let the story settle into your bones, into your blood, into whatever part of you carries dreams and memories and hopes. And when you wake, when the sun rises, and the world begins again, you'll carry it with you. A tiny spark, a small reminder, a little bit of magic, tucked away where no one can see it, waiting for the right moment to shine. Sleep well, my friends. Sleep deeply, sleep peacefully, and remember, even the smallest among us can create the most beautiful things. Greater than. End of script. Sweet dreams.